Hi, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the TradeStation Masterclass. Today, we're going to do a platform essentials session where we highlight certain topic of the TradeStation platform. And today, we are going to be talking about OCOs and OSO orders. You find these types of orders, in many places of TradeStation, many order entry tools. So we can highlight any of them. They pretty much work the same way in every single order entry tool. So let me ask you guys, what is your preferred order entry tool? What are you guys trading on? Are you trading on the matrix? Are you trading on the trade bar? Are you trading on chart trading? It'd be great to know from the members of the TradeStation Masterclass, what is your preferred order entry tool? So Prasad says that he's trading futures on matrix. Thank you, Prasad, for sharing. Myron, good morning to you too. I don't see any more feedback. On primarily on the trade bar, okay, that's totally fine. On Option Station Pro, Peter says. So yeah, we got a mixture of everything. Buma says that he trades on the matrix and on a chart. So yeah, OCOs and OSOs are types of orders that are found in many tools in TradeStation. Give me just one moment. It's going to take me 30 seconds. I just have to step away from the computer a moment, and I'll be right back with all of you. But just one moment. All right, I just got back. Sorry, it's just one of those things of working from home. Sometimes you just got to step away and ask someone or some people to, just keep it down. I'm trying to do a class here. It just gets a little bit distracting right here in the background. So I'm back talking about OCOs and OSOs. As I was saying at the very beginning of the presentation, the functionality, it's pretty much the same. Some places, though, you get a little bit more flexibility. I think we talked about this on our prior session when we were doing some of the entry OCOs, and it holds true for this class as well. The trade bar gives you a little bit more flexibility, and we're going to take a look at that. So is there a tool that's better than the other? Not really. I guess it's all how you are using TradeStation and what makes sense to you when you're putting the trades. The good thing is that, what we need to do though is try to utilize all of them so you can pick and choose the one that you're most comfortable with. Because sometimes, we're so we're so used to doing things a particular way that we don't open ourselves to other possibilities that may be a little bit more efficient. So that's the whole reason why we have these classes, so that we can learn about all the TradeStation technology and give you an opportunity to maybe choose something that you've done, a long time a particular way, and now you can change it around. Let's go ahead and go through some important disclosures before we continue. All right. Keep in mind that every symbol and idea that I talk about in this presentation is for educational purposes only. They're not recommendations of TradeStation. And also make sure that you're aware that active trading is not suitable for everyone. There are products that carry a higher degree of risk, and we need to be aware of those. When we look at past historical performance, this is no indication of future results. For additional information on these disclosures, please go to our website. You see the link right there at the bottom of the page. It is www.tradestation.com, and you're going to find all the disclosure information there. By the way, for those that are joining us for the first time, my name is Jesus Nava. I am the Director of Education, Director of Client Training and Education at TradeStation. And my job here at TradeStation is just to make the use of TradeStation as simple as possible. Let's go over to TradeStation and let's talk about all the order entry tools that show you OCOs and OSOs orders. So I'm going to open up a matrix. I think I did this last time. Okay, all the order entry tools in TradeStation are interconnected. So what you do in one is reflected on another. And I'm just going to open up the matrix here on the left-hand side, and I'm also going to open a chart analysis here on the right. These are all going to be on the same symbol. You can see that I've loaded AT&T on all of them. Well, AT&T was just the default symbol that came up. I talked about this scenario where the bars are touching the bottom of the chart, which there's not a good chart to do a demonstration because all the orders are going to be, at the very bottom. Although, charting is one of those utilities that automatically adjusts so that you can see all the orders that are active for any instrument, which I think it's a great feature because sometimes you have these orders that go outside of the range of prices and you're not able to see them. The matrix, it's problematic when it comes to keeping track of profit targets and stop losses that are away from the current trading activity because of this price range issue. For AT&T, it may not be a problem. AT&T is trading at $25. So the range of prices that I see here for AT&T, it goes from 25.68 to 26.02. So we're talking about a movement of about 40 or 30 or 40 cents, which for, AT&T is about, 1% movement. But when you talk about things that are higher in price, like Microsoft, or maybe you're looking at Apple or Spider, a 30 cent or a 40 cent move, it's nothing compared to the price of the security. So sometimes just be aware of the range of prices and what makes sense for you. Okay, let's bring up another security. Let me go ahead and link these two windows together. Let me take a look at Walmart. All right, Walmart is trading at 137. Let me take a look at Twitter. Twitter is always at the it's also at the bottom of my chart. Let me go ahead and go to Microsoft. Microsoft the same. So let's go here to USO. All right, I'm just trying to look for a symbol. Okay, let me stay with Home Depot. I just brought Home Depot up, trading at $346, I think. All right, yes. And yeah, you can see that we have the same range of 30 or 40 cents right here on the matrix, but 30 cents, for a stock that is $300, it's about 0.5%, which is it's not significant. So when we talk about, setting an OCO or something to bracket our position, the matrix is going to give us some challenges because of the price scale. So let's go ahead and take a look at, all right, let's see. The number in parentheses is just letting you know, by the way, somebody's asking here, what is the number inside parentheses when you look at the bid or ask? It's just additional information of additional depth. It's just telling you that it's not really two individuals. It's just additional market makers and ECNs that are aggregated in that field. So it's not, it's not individual traders, but it is individual market makers or ECNs that are aggregated in that field. Let's go ahead and put in a trade for Home Depot. I'm going to turn on chart trading. Okay, in order for you to use OCO and OSO functionality, we're going to rely on this area right here that says place OCO, and also this area up here that says attach OSO. And just be aware of what type of order is it the one you're trying to place, because depending on what is it you're trying to achieve, you're going to be either attaching an OSO or sending an OCO. They're very similar in nature. They're separated here because of design. The OCOs are at the bottom, OSOs are at the top. But when you go to the attach OSO, if I click on this checkbox and I go to this drop down, what I see in this drop down is mostly OCOs. So it's not like you have OSOs at the top and you have OCOs at the bottom, because a lot of these templates are exactly the same. It's just the nature of the order you're creating. Are you creating something that sends exits with it. So you have an entry that automatically attaches exits. If you have an entry exit combo that you want to send at once, you're going to want OSO because that's order sends order. You have a primary that gets filled and then it sends secondary orders to manage your position. If you have a position already open, you're probably not want to want an OSO. You're going to want an OCO because you already have an open position and all you need is to send a bracket to monitor your trade. So as I said, depending on where you are at the stage of the trade, if you have a position open or not, then sometimes you're going to be wanting the OSO and the OCO. Once we understand what functionality is inside on each one of those categories, then it's going to be easier for you to pick exactly what you need. For example, for Home Depot, I don't have a position open. We already talked about the entry OCOs, which is a different class in of itself. So if you haven't watched it, it's the class we did on Friday, I believe. And we talked about how to enter the market with an OCO because those are kind of their own category, and they're available right here in the OCO, to enter the market. And I did a class separate on them because when we think of OCO, sometimes we just think of exits, but these four at the very top of this list, they allow you to have an OCO setup, but to enter the market. We're going to talk about those today because we talked about them extensively on that Friday class. Check out the archives right there in recent uploads. But we are going to talk about all these at the bottom. If I use any of these, like let me choose the very first one after the entries. My button here is grayed out, and it's grayed out for a reason because I have no way of exiting something that I don't have. I don't have any shares of Home Depot, so it makes no sense for me to send an exit bracket. So that's the reason why this button is grayed out. So for something that, for a symbol that you're flat on, it's probably better, or the top option is the one that would apply in that scenario a little bit more. So once I have the attach OSO, when I go to the drop down, of course, you get exactly the same template that you get at the bottom because that's their purpose, And we'll do an example where we use the bottom ones, but for now, since we don't have a position open, we have to use the ones at the top because the exits need to be attached to some sort of an entry. They need to exit something that at the moment I don't have. But once I put in an order, then I know that exit is going to be attached. Now I can do any type of order as long as you have this checkbox checked, the attach OSO, and you have the template that you want to have attached. All you need to do is submit a trade. You can use any of the buttons here, like a buy market or buy limit order. You can do the take hit. You can even do one of the entry OCOs if you want to. We're going to keep things simple. I'm going to choose a market order and see what it looks like right here on the screen. Click it, and it fills and fills. What you just saw, it's something that could happen on your side as well. I mean, I don't have any orders visible here because I didn't go into the settings of the OCO. The OCO by default is very close to the current trading price. So if I buy 100 shares of Home Depot at the current price of 348, my profit target and my stop loss are going to be just, I believe it's 10 cents away. 10 cents higher and 10 cents low, which for Home Depot is just way too tight. If you buy at 348.38 and you sell at 348.48, this is only 10 cents. Of course, if you're trading 100 shares, that's $10. But who has enough capital in their accounts to trade 100 shares of Home Depot? Yeah, maybe you do. It's $34,000 or $35,000 of a position that you have to have in your account. But again, the point here is not account size. The point here is that to have a valid OCO or have something that makes sense, you do have to adjust the distance of those profit targets and stop losses accordingly. 10 cents is just way too tight for Home Depot. How do we change that? We have to come here to the ellipsis on the right-hand side to modify how far away do we want the target and how far away do we want the stop. Here you see the offset is 10 cents, way too little for Microsoft. And I can make this my target. I can maybe make it $3, and my stop, I can make it $1, the 3-to-1 ratio. If I do that, if I type in the values in there and I click OK, I'm going to buy at market again so you can see the difference. There we go. Now we do get fill at 348.57, but our profit target is right up here at 351.57, which is $3 higher. And then you have your stop down here at $1 higher. One of the things that we saw, and by the way, take a look at how that order is displayed right here on the matrix. We have our fill at 348.57. If I wanted to find this target at 351, I would have to scroll up all the way to 351, and still that would be a little bit hard to follow. Here's where my target is, 351.57, when the position reaches a value or a profit target of $1,500. Can I adjust that target here from the matrix? Of course. I'm just showing you the matrix because you can see how they're interconnected, where I can place a trade right here on the chart and it automatically shows right here on the matrix. And if I cancel any of the targets or the stops right here on the matrix, you'll see those orders disappear on the chart. Let me click on this target. You can see how it just disappears here from the right-hand side. Let me cancel all my active orders and I'm going to close that trade. And you see I'm out of the trade. Again, getting ready to submit a trade. Now here, let's talk about some of the limitations that you find right here on this configuration of this OCO. I can click on the ellipsis. I'm unable to put in a fixed price in here. It only works in offsets. And if you were with us on Friday's class, you know that's the case for most of the templates inside of chart trading and inside of the matrix, where you're only working with price offsets. For some people, that may be sufficient because you always think about your exits in relationship to your entry and as an offset. So if you make 50 cents, if you make $3, you know, a lot of people just think that way. You can just enter the offset amount and we'll just do the calculation and set it at the price that corresponds to that offset. But I know a lot of other traders, a lot of you out there like to enter a specific price. So that is something that you cannot do here on the chart trading utility or the matrix. Let's do that on the order bar. So let's suppose that I'm going to buy Microsoft again, but I want my target to be 352 and I want my stop to be 346. Does that make sense? Okay, so how do we do that? If you want the specific prices, you need to use the trade bar. Let's go to trade. And what we need here is we need to go to OCO, OSO. In here, we do have to select an entry. I'm going to avoid the OCO entries. We talked about those on Friday. So this is going to be an entry single order long. It's called a single order because it's not an OCO. So don't get confused about some of the wording here. It's just a single order to buy. It's pretty much what it's saying here. And when you hover over that, of course, it gives you the menu for you to select either no exit order, which is the option right here at the top. It'll be just a single order to buy. But if you're just sending in a single order to buy, it makes no sense to click on OCO. The only reason why you would click on the button OCO OSO is to create an OCO OSO. If you're doing a single order and then clicking on no exit, that's like placing an order outright right here inside of the trade bar, which is better than to coming here, right? So if I do a single order and I choose the same template that I was using right here on charting, is this one, a bracket with one limit and one stop level. I know that sometimes, you know, if it's the first time that you're using TradeStation, those abbreviated names for those templates may not be intuitive, if we could say that. I mean, you look at them and you say, what the heck is 1S, 1L, you know? What's the abbreviated term? The good thing is that the trade bar spells everything out, so you have a better idea of what they are. I would really like for maybe TradeStation to do some sort of data tips tooltip that shows up when you hover over a certain template, right? To give you a description of what it does or what it represents. So yes, I'm just saying that sometimes, yeah, it could be a little bit more user friendly, right? But here we have everything spelled out, and this is the place where you would come if you want to work with prices. So I'm going to go here and click this. It opens up my OCO OSO order bar. I got my Home Depot order, which I'm going to set to a join. Or even better, I'm going to do a hit take. Hit take is similar to what I did here on charting, where I said I want to buy at market. It's similar because it's not really a market order, but it's going to be sending a limit order, but cross the market. So it's going to say, instead of looking at the bid, it's going to be looking at the asking price if you're buying. So if I'm buying 100 shares of Home Depot, it looks at the asking price, which is the price that the sellers are selling their shares at, and says, yeah, I want to buy it at that price. And if you're buying at a price that a seller is selling at, you would expect to get an immediate execution, right? It's a no-brainer. But sometimes prices do shift very quickly, and you may wind up with an order that doesn't get filled, because this would still be a limit order. Remember, it's not a market order. It's a limit order at the price that the sellers want to sell the shares at. So I'm going to do 100 shares. I'm not sure. I have my default sets to 100. So let me switch all the quantities to 100. So I'm going to hit take Home Depot at 100 with my limit. And here's where we decide where to put in the price. We're not going to work with offsets. So we're going to ignore this column that says limit offset. And we're just going to come over here under the limit column. Now you don't have to go to you can go to the drop down and choose custom price, which is the same thing as just clicking inside the field. It just gives you the highlight, which is an indication that you can erase whatever's in there and type whatever you want. So for my limit, I did say that I wanted 352, and I can type in the price directly into that cell. Notice how the information that was inside of limit offset is gone because it doesn't apply anymore. And I'm going to do the same thing with the stop. This is my stop for the same 100 shares. I don't need an offset, so I'm going to click inside this cell. And I did say that my stop price was 346. Once I put in my prices, I'm going to click on send orders. There we go. Notice that I do get a fill, an immediate fill without using a market order. This is a hit take order. I have my profit target here at 352 and my stop loss right here at 346. Not a trade that I would take because of the risk ratio profile. This is a trade that is shooting for $173 in profit, but risking 427 in losses. I think when I was looking at the chart, I just picked out 352 and 346 because they were just even numbers that I was seeing on the price scale. So there was no analysis made as to if this is a good relationship or not. Okay, so hopefully this is clear. Notice that I placed the trade on the trade bar, and it automatically shows up right here on the chart, and it also shows on the matrix, also confirming that all these order entry tools are interconnected, and whatever you do in one gets reflected on another. Let me cancel all of this and then click on the close button to close my position. All right. So question here from the chat: how do you combine an entry, stop, and profit target? Exactly as we just did here. So attach OSO if you're using the chart, attach OSO right here if you're using the matrix, or if you're using the trade bar trade, we'd go to OCO OSO. You do a single order with a bracket attachment that has a limit and a stop. Of course, the limit would be your profit target and the stop would be your stop loss. I just have to think about the type of order in this case, because the type of order implies, what the result is going to be, either a profit target or a stop loss. We don't use those terms in here, like target or stop. Maybe we should, because everybody understands what they are. But when you're thinking about a stop or a target, limit and stop is also a way that you can refer to them, all right? Let's talk about some other templates that are here. Let me switch over to a futures contract, ESH 22. Okay, so this is the S&P E-mini futures trading at 4,268. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put in a trade that has multiple exits. So this is in a type of trade where you are being a little bit conservative and you want to exit a portion of your trade if it goes to a certain level, but then leave the other one running to capture more profit. So this is going to be a setup that exits or has two exits on the profitable side. One is conservative, it takes out half of your position, and the other half runs a little bit faster or a little bit higher, not faster. And then on the downside, we're just going to have a regular fixed stop, which we can modify and make it do whatever we want. But for now, it's just going to be a fixed stop. By the way, I think we already did a class on custom OCOs and OSOs. That is a class that allows you to do all sorts of combinations. So something you don't find here can probably be created using a custom OCO. So keep that in mind, because you're not limited to what's available here. You can pretty much create anything you guys want. Let's go here and set up the trade. I'm going to set up my quantity to 2. In the attach OSO dropdown, notice that all of these are very similar in the way that they're worded. Then what changes is the number of L's and the number of S's, and sometimes you have an SL combination. And SL, by the way, before I even go into the trade, let's talk about what the SL is, because we know that the L is a limit order. We know that the S is a stop order. What is an SL? It's a stop limit order. So I want people to understand what a stop limit order is, because it's not until you understand what it is that you'll be able to do a right application of the order. Now, the stop and the stop limit both have the stop behavior associated with it. In fact, if I go over here to the trade bar and I go to the drop down for order type, you're going to see the two types of stops in here. You have a stop market and a stop limit. When you go to the template and you see only the letter S, which is a stop, it is implied that that is a stop market. When you only have a stop in place, that is considered to be a stop market. The word market sometimes is dropped because it's just something that is assumed that everyone knows that once it reaches a particular stop, you're going to be exited at whatever price possible in the market. And that's the nature of the stop market. So stop market and stop limit are similar in the fact that they're both looking for a trigger price. And this trigger price is your stop. When the stop price is reached, that's when the difference comes in. A stop market turns into a market order and you get filled and exited at whatever the market can get you. When you do a stop limit, though, the stop limit, it's a more restrictive order, because not only you have the stop, which triggers it, but now you're telling the order, I want this price or a better price. So you're putting some price conditions into the order that may just make the order stay there and not get filled at all. Remember that pricing and the prices that you want are not necessarily the prices you get from the market. So if you're using a stop limit order, yes, it's a little bit more restrictive, and yes, the order may not get filled at all. So as long as you understand how this works, then you have no issues looking at the list here and looking at an S which is a regular stop market, or an SL, which is a stop limit. And yes, a stop limit order requires you to submit two prices. The price that is going to trigger the stop, that's your stop price, and the price that is going to be for your limit order, resulting from the trigger of your stop. Hopefully that makes sense. And if it doesn't, please let me know right here in the chat, and I'll give you, a little bit more information on that. On this example that we're going to be using futures for, we're going to use just a regular stop market. So that's why when I came over here to the drop down, and I wanted to give you a little bit of a clarification of what the ones and the twos are or were, and what the L's and the SLs are, okay? So here in this example, I'm going to use a 2L, one stop. Why? Because as I said at the very beginning, I want a trade that is going to be able to monitor two possible targets and just one stop. Let me click there. Let me go here to the ellipsis. In the ellipsis, we see price offset, and it's tricky for futures traders because you have to think in terms of minimum price increments. Well, we do have a note right here at the bottom on the same dialog that says price offset is expressed in minimum price increments. Some people don't read the note. I mean, you're not expected. You wouldn't expect a note to be at the bottom of the dialog, but if you're trading futures and you're using the OCO functionality, whatever you're using in a price offset is expressed in terms of minimum price increments. And why is it not just a fixed amount? Because the amount is different depending on the futures that you're trading. This one that I have on the screen, which is the S&P E-mini, trades in quarters of a point. So that's the minimum price increment. And you have to think about how many of those quarters are you going to put in here in the price offset, because that's the way that it is interpreted. That is the way that is going to be read. So when you say it, when you see a number 10 here for the limit, that is not 10 whole points. In reality, that is 10 quarters of a point. So if you take that 10 and you multiply it by 0.25, which is a quarter, you get 2.5. So if you want to translate any of these offsets to a whole number, then you just have to multiply it by a quarter, and that's what you get, 2.5 points for that target. It is designed this way, so there's no way around this. So if you really want to use whole points instead, cannot do that. You have to express it in quarters of a point. So a quick way that something that I do very quickly is just double the number twice, just to get the right number of increments here. So if it's trading, this is trading at 4,262, right? Let's suppose that I'm shooting for a target of, 4280. That's about 20 points away from the current trading price. About because you know how the price is changing continuously. So if I want to do a profit target of about 20 points, I just take that 20, I double it to 40, and the 40, I double it again to 80. So I know that if I put in 80 here for a target, it'll be exactly 20 points. But I did say that at the very beginning that this example would have a more conservative first target and one that is a little bit higher. I think the 20 points, it's a significant, move on the S&P E-mini. 20 points times $50 for every point movement. That's a profit target of about $1,000. So let's go ahead and let's choose a target that is halfway. So halfway would be about 4270. It's about 10 points. So again, I take the 10, then I double it to 20, and I take the 20 and I double it again to 40. So that's going to be my first target's 40, and my second target is going to be 80. Notice that I'm changing the offset just for the limit. Limits are both of your targets. You can see that the quantity is set here to 50%. So by default, it's just getting rid of half of your trade. For the stop market, let's suppose that I want to keep my losses kind of tight. I'm going to shoot for just 10 whole points. So I want 10 whole points, then I want my first target to be 40 and 40. Notice that I'm putting 40 on both places because that's the way that the OCO works. I mean, it may seem like you have two stops in here, but you don't. It's really one. And as long as you enter the exact same price offset for both rows, it's going to handle it as one single stop. The reason why it's separated here is because your quantity for your position needs to be adjusted for the stop. So if you come over here on the first target and it exits 50%, the only way that we could figure out, the only way that we could make the stop be adjusted is by setting it up this way. So now it also reduces the quantity of your stop by 50%, and then it goes on to the second row. So here I have my amounts, and all I need to do is click on OK, and I'm going to hold down my control key, and I'm going to enter right here at 42.60. There we go. That's my setup right there. I have an entry at 42.60. My first target is at 42.70, 10 points away. And my third target is at 42.80, another 10 points away, so 20 points away. And then I have my stop loss right here at 42.50, which is 10 points from the entry. And it did work because I did something before placing this trade. Sometimes I forget to adjust the quantity, and then I get an error about quantity. Right here on the top, you see where it says quantity, and I did this before editing my OSO because I knew that if I had gone to the OSO settings and I had configured my order and then placed it, I would have just forgotten the quantity and I would have gotten an error. So you just have to make sure that the quantity can be split into the percentages that the OSO has. You know, we have a 50%, so it was easily split up in two because you had two contracts. 50% of that is one. One thing that I couldn't have done is to have 1/3 of a contract or a portion of the contract because the market doesn't allow you to trade portions of contract. So as long as you have the same number or a number of contracts that can be divided into the number of exits you provide here, you're going to be totally fine. So now this is a cool setup. Now I have a conservative first target that gets rid of 50%, and I have one that's a little bit higher. Now you also have this kind of scale out functionality for the exit size. If you want to do something similar for the stops, you can do that as well. You know, you can have, let's do that. Let me go ahead and cancel all. Let me go here to my drop down, and I'm going to do a 2L, 2S. So it's two stops, two limits. I'm going to click on the ellipsis and back on the default values. If the ES is something that you trade frequently, or I can say this for any other futures contract, and you are seeing that the price offsets that you're picking are pretty much the same across these numbers, which are the default numbers, can be set as default, so you don't have to continuously change them. That's if you find yourself, you know, putting in the same values. If you're always putting different values in here, doesn't really matter what your defaults are, right? So for the first limit, I said that I wanted 40. For the second limit, 80. My first target is going to be 20, and my second target is going to be 40. So yeah, that's 5 points on the first one, 10 points on the second one. If I place this trade, I'm going to do it again. Let me do 42.75. I'm going to do control 42.75. There we go. Now let's see if it fills that order. I picked to enter at 42.75. You can see how my stop right here at 42.70 and at 42.65. I do have one in between, a little bit more conservative, which is going to get rid of one contract if it starts going in the opposite direction of my entry. Do we have any questions so far? The functionality is very straightforward. We do some basic examples here. So if you are thinking of something that you want to do and you're not able to figure this one out, let me know right here in the chat, and this will be the time for us to work on it. Of course, there's going to be a side that is more of a custom OCO, which we can talk about that today, because I know that in our last OCO or custom OCO class, we didn't get a lot of time to work on something more custom. So if you have any custom orders that you've been working on and you haven't been able to figure out, let me know right here in the chat and we'll figure it out together. I just got filled at 42.75. You can see that my trade is working. If I push my matrix a little bit lower, I can see that my first target is at 42.70. Notice that that's a $500 loss if it goes against me. But we can see how those orders are working really nicely here. I can open them up and we can see how the bars are, the candlesticks are working in relationship with our entry and exit lines, which is very nice. Whenever I put in orders, even on the matrix, I always like to look at the orders right here on a chart, because you can see how the orders play out in relationship to the current market conditions and what the candlesticks are doing. So I think that's very valuable to be able to see your order lines on the chart. Okay. Excellent. Our first target is $500. Now, one thing that so the P&L, it's interesting because if when I looked at the P&L, you see the first target said 500, but here on the matrix, it assumes that I'm exiting both of my contracts. So if I were to exit both of my contracts, yes, my loss would be $500, because it's $5 or 5 points per contract. 5 points times the $50 per point, it's $250. So $250 times the 2 contracts that I'm trading, it's $500. Oh, we just hit our target. That's pretty cool. So notice that we just hit the target, the first target. We still have 1 contract remaining. We have the stop in place. Now, what happened here to my, well, you see what happened here is that our conservative stop was canceled, because now we just need 1 stop. What if you wanted the other stop to be canceled, the one that's furthest from the entry price? That would have to be a custom trade, because what I would have done, instead of exiting, the one right here, the one that I deemed conservative or even a little bit tighter, instead of canceling that one, I would have canceled the one that's further out, because I already have some profits on my position. So interesting that it picked that one in the middle too, because that was the one that was, linked to my first target. So that's the one that was canceled. But it's very interesting. It seems like the S&P E-mini is moving very fast today, and that's why we had those profit targets and stop loss being hit very quickly. Let's see, what else? Well, if you go here to the drop down, of course, the number increases as you go down the list, and the number changes. So if you want a 3 target with 1 stop, or a 3 target with 2 stop, we have up to 3 and 2, which has the highest number of exits we have on these templates. Although, you can always go to the custom OCO if you want more exits than the one we supply here. And at the bottom of the list, we have the stop limit only or the stop only. Again, we have the variation. One is a stop market and the other is a stop limit. So we talked about, attaching it, which is a way of you sending or combining your entry with your exits. But sometimes you're going to want to use the OCO functionality right here at the bottom because you already have a position open. Let me cancel my active orders. I still have my position open. If I wanted to have a new bracket in place, I just go here to the drop down and I select the bracket from within the OCO button. I don't need an enter anymore because I'm already in a trade. So if I choose this one limit 1S and I change it, let me go here to the ellipsis. I'm going to say my target is going to be 40 and my stop is going to be 40. I want you to notice something though. I want you to notice that my trade is already in a profitable state. I'm already at 42.94 and making money as the price is going up. The price offsets that you're putting in here inside of the regular OCO, it's not even linked to my entry. So the offsets that you're putting in here are going to be offsets calculated from the last traded price. You're right. I mean, sometimes it's confusing, but that's the way that the technology is designed. And I want you guys to be aware that if I'm doing an OCO after the fact of having a position open, then my offsets are not calculated from the entry price. They are going to be calculated from the last traded price. So how does this look? Well, it's going to add 40 price increments to 42.90, which is the current trading price, and subtract 40 from 42.90, which is the current trading price. If I click OK and I place the OCO, notice that the bracket is created, but it's created around the last traded price instead of my entry price. Be aware of that because that's the way that the technology works. It works in terms of the last traded price. So that's what my orders look like. Let me make this a little bit bigger. Let me show you something else that you're probably aware of. I'm not sure if you are. Let me go ahead and cancel those orders because a lot of times, you may think that's a little bit, odd, right? So even before, this is something that only applies to this OCO functionality, which I find useful sometimes. Put a check here that says preview OCO exit orders. And I repeat again, this preview OCO exit orders only works with OCO exit orders. It does not work with attach OSO. So it doesn't work with the feature up here. It does not work with entry OCOs. It only works with exit OCOs, which are this list right here. From the 1L1S to the 3L2SL. Our engineers did say that they were going to, enhance this and add other features. I haven't seen any other work done in this area. But if I do preview OCO, I want you guys to take a look at how my button reads now. Instead of place OCO order, it says preview OCO order, giving me a chance to see a line where the orders would go before I submit the trades. If I don't check this box, preview OCO, the behavior is that as soon as I click on place OCO, the orders go right into the screen. And of course, I have the ability to click and drag those orders to modify them. But preview does give you that feature of previewing the orders before they get sent. So if I click on preview OCO order here, take a look what happens here at the top. One thing though, it doesn't automatically adjust for the orders that may be above the market. Remember, that's something that does happen if it's a real order, the price scale adjusts for you to see the orders, not here. So I would have to click on the price scale here and squeeze it so that I could see the levels right here at the top of my screen. And I'm going to add a little bit more space here because there's a lot of useful information on that line. By the way, that line that you see there is not a real order yet. It's just a preview of the order. It tells you what the price is going to be for that order. So 43.07 for the target, 42.87 for the stop. You know, the current price is already past my stop. So let me go ahead and push that line a little bit lower, which is something you can do also. So the nice thing about these preview OCO lines is that you can adjust them before submitting a trade. So let me go ahead and drag it down here. Put it right here, maybe do, I don't know, 42.70, 42.67, I'm sorry, 42.67. In the lines, I see the number of points. Now, these number of points are away from the entry price. So that's something really cool as well, because the OCO, remember that I did say that it doesn't have any connection to the entry price. So they're kind of off because they're calculated from the last traded price. But if you use a preview, here you can see how far are these lines away from my entry. I entered at 42.75, so my target is 32 points away. That is a 0.7% move if you're calculating how far is my target. It gives you an estimated profit for the profit target and the return ratio, which is 4 to 1. Yeah, because if I look at my stop is 8 points away from the entry price. So 4 times that 8 gives me my 32 points of the target. So that's your return ratio, risk reward, risk ratio. I'm not sure specifically what RR means, but all those apply. Return ratio, risk reward. What did I say the other one was? Return risk ratio. Okay, so it is the proportion of your risk based on or taking into consideration your target. So that's a very important piece of information to look at, and especially if you're risking something to make something. All right, so once you're ready to put in the trades, all you need to do is click on that red place OCO order button, and the orders are right there in place where you had previewed them. All right, I don't see any other questions here, any comments, so I'm going to assume that the information is clear. Thank you guys for joining me today in this presentation of the OCO and OSO functionality. If you guys have questions, remember that tomorrow we're going to have our Ask the Trade Station experts at 11:30 in the morning. That's Eastern time. And then we have our friend David Russell showing up at 12:30 p.m. Eastern time for his market insights. So hopefully we'll see everyone tomorrow. Thank you for joining us today. Have a wonderful afternoon. Goodbye, everyone.